The campaigning is done and voting is underway, and as ballots are counted, it's important to prepare for an outcome that may not be what you want. Joining us this morning is registered psychologist Dr. Ganz Ferrance. Now, Dr. Ganz, what is your advice for people who are disappointed in tonight's results?
Yeah, I mean, one way or the other, somebody's going to be disappointed, right? But this is the outcome. This is the outcome that we voted for as a people, and I think it's important that, especially now with all the rhetoric around Canadian sovereignty and stuff like that, that we pull together no matter what the outcome is. So what I would say is the folks that are disappointed understand that, okay, give yourself some time to grieve if you need to do that, but then stay engaged, stay connected with people who support you, and also people who have different views than you, because it's important that we keep connected and keep talking to each other no matter what we believe.
Now, this election has been a divisive one. What type of emotions typically come up during election time?
Well, right now, I think there is a lot of just kind of like heightened emotion overall. So fear, stress, sometimes there's anger and frustration. And, one of the things that we know as psychologists is that when we're feeling heightened emotions, especially things that we consider negative, it's hard for us to be able to be as objective and as connected as we'd like to be.
Now, when there is a political divide amongst friends and family, how do we navigate that?
Yeah, I think, like I was saying earlier, it's really important that we stay connected, stay talking to each other in communication. A few things I tell people when I run my seminars on communication stuff: you want to manage your own state of being and also the other person's if possible when you're talking about politics or difficult issues. So we want to make sure that we're in a good state ourselves and try to talk to people when they're in a good state. But also it's really important to think about the relationship and being respectful as opposed to trying to win the argument or change somebody's mind, because that's not always going to work very well.
Now, that's for speaking in person. What about social media when you see people post certain political views and whatnot? Should you respond, or should you allow people to comment on what you post?
Well, that's a hard thing, because the difficulty with social media is that it's somewhat anonymous. When we're behind a computer, it's much easier to be more extreme, is what researchers find, than when we are connected and face-to-face, right? So, as much as we need to manage whatever we need to do to manage our own state, we need to do that. So if we need to kind of back away from social media or not comment or not read the comments on our posts, we need to do that. If you do need to comment, remember, if you're going to say something, think about what you would say if the person was standing right there. Do not just kind of jump into the energy that's online, because a lot of times that's quite toxic.
Is there a way to make these conversations productive?
I would say, yeah. I think, especially when we're face-to-face, I think it's important to remember that we are humans, and it's important to look for common ground. Whenever we're talking about any difficult issue, it's important to remember that we have, like it's in political cases, we have the same outcome. We want a better life for ourselves, for the country, for the people in the country. And so look for that sense of commonality. But then also, I like Stephen Covey's 7 Habits. Habit 5 is seek first to understand, then be understood. So we want to really ask the other person what their views are, why they believe what they believe. Be genuinely curious, and by doing that, we stay connected, and then we may have a little more influence rather than trying to change somebody's mind.
Well, thank you, Dr. Ferrance, for joining us this morning. Great perspective on what will happen today amongst Canadian voters. Now, you can connect with Dr. Ganz and ask Dr. Ganz at askdrgans.com.